swear I'ma go get it now. Second up, baby, she doing business.
Gotta do what I gotta do is right for me. I don't know what they all want from me, but I gotta do what I gotta do is right for me.
Hey, yo, Trio!
Hey, yo, Sway, you destined for greatness, bro.
Hello, everyone. If you are still here, you have another chance to make your dreams come true. Thank you so much for tuning into the Breaking the Silence podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to take a moment to penetrate your minds with a Black history fact. Did you know Vermont was the first state to ban slavery and Mississippi was the last? Well, I would have guessed Mississippi was the last. Every appearance, I will recognize someone in the Breaking the Silence podcast for free. If you have a business, a product, or a service you want to advertise, please reach out to me via email, unleashyourinnervoice@gmail.com. Well, I will not hold you any longer. Today's guest is Mr. Victor Jones. He is the host of Liquor Talk podcast out of Florida. He has been a podcaster for 5 years. He has hosted events and breakout sessions for podcast conferences. His podcast focuses on Black culture, relationships, and exclusive interviews. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Victor Jones to the stage. Hello.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for bringing me on to your podcast.
Thank you for being a guest on Breaking the Silence today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing wonderful.
Wonderful. So tell me a little bit about the Liquor Talk podcast.
A little about the Liquor Talk podcast. It's just a platform where real people come together, have real grown folks conversations. The conversations you don't want to have. And yes, we're gonna post some liquor because sometimes liquor will get the truth out of some people. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some things you might not say sober, but if you have some liquor in your system, oh, it'll come out.
Absolutely. The sober mind speaks. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
So how has the podcast journey been for you so far?
The podcast journey has been up and down, but I can say that of all the things I've wanted to try, it's that I've stuck with the longest. And I've gotten more positive feedback out of everything. So it's been easy to stick with. You meet people in different states, always encourage you to keep going. And people in other states and hell, in either other countries as well, they'll show up for the podcast and give you a great conversation. And I just really enjoyed it. So that's why I just managed to keep going.
Was podcasting like something that you dreamed of as a child or something that you got into when you became an adult?
Podcasting is definitely something I got into as an adult. I didn't really think about podcasting as a child. As a child, you're thinking about maybe being a pro athlete or doing whatever you can to make it out. You know what I'm saying? Podcasting came to me like during the twilight years of college. So, and then once I saw somebody doing it after college, then I got started and the rest was history.
So what inspired you to start the Liquor Talk podcast?
What inspired me to start it was having drunk thoughts like because sometimes I'll be home just sipping and drinking, and then I started recording them thoughts to Snapchat, and people were getting a buzz out of them. And then somebody suggested you should look into doing a podcast, and they said you have a really strong voice and you could really be good at it. And then I looked into it. I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast, and then I listened to some other black podcasts as well. I'm like, hey, I could do this. And then I said I got together. I had an open trial. I had a co-host. Me and that co-host came together and we recorded for the first season. About the first 2 seasons, I had a co-host. But then during the second season, I had a realization of I can do this by myself. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes your co-host don't share your same vision. So once I broke away from them and started recruiting people to come on, it became easier that way. But yeah, I was happy to be inspired by starting the podcast, and it's only up from here.
Wow, wow. That brings me to my next question. What challenges have you faced since starting the podcast?
Um, well, outside of the co-host situation, the biggest challenge I would say is scheduling people. That's probably the one of the biggest issues, because sometimes people have last minute things come up, like you done got this episode planned for this person, and then they hit you like, "Hey, I can't make it today," or something that happened and I can't make it or whatever. And then the other biggest hurdle is dealing with someone who doesn't really give you a really good conversation, like, because I can tell when life is life, and to me that's just no excuse. Like, you show up on the mic, you got to get on the mic for this person, you got, because you're helping this person's vision. And it's like, and people, they don't realize that, like, you gotta
Absolutely.
don't keep giving people crappy conversations.
I agree completely because I do agree that scheduling is the hardest. I send scheduling links out. People agree to be on the podcast for one, and then you send the scheduling links out, and then right now I'm probably waiting on some people like months now to just schedule. So, and then I haven't had the issue with people agreeing to come on scheduling and not showing up yet. But I'm just starting out, so eventually I might face that problem. Hopefully I don't.
Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you don't. We're gonna speak to existence that you don't have to deal with that problem, because it is a headache. And and you find it hard to give people grace when people make a habit of it.
Exactly, exactly. I agree. So, what is some feedback that you receive from your audience or your peers that you hold dear?
The feedback I was getting was, you got a great platform and you got to keep going. And whenever I did get a negative feedback, it's always from somebody who's been in podcasting for a while and stuff. And I think someone once told me, "Hey, don't worry, don't really focus on who ain't gonna show up. Just focus on who does show up." You know what I'm saying? And the biggest thing they always told me is just to keep going, just to keep pushing. You got a bright future in this. That's what everybody was telling me. So
I mean, I have noticed just being an author, when I first published my first book, everybody that you think that's going to support you don't. It's always the people that you don't know that support you the most. I mean, I've asked so many people to come on my podcast that I've known, but I've met so many great people that I don't know through this podcast. So it's not always the people that you know. It's not even your family that's going to support you.
yeah, that's real. That is so real. Like, hey, my mom got to the point now she's starting to tell to spread the word around. She wasn't at first, but she see that we over 200 episodes now. The word getting out to the family, and the world's trickling out now. And like I said, I live in Tampa, Florida, and I could barely get people that live in Tampa to show up. But there's people that show up from New Jersey or California or Michigan or you name it, wherever they're at, they're gonna show up. So you definitely got to embrace the support from other states. And also look at it this way, like, say if there's an event in that state you're going to, you can be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be in your state, I would love to meet up." Hey, that's a and do an in-person episode right there. There's a
Look,
connection.
see, I'm coming to Tampa next month, actually, the end of next month. Um,
Really?
so hey, we might can link in for an episode. I mean,
Okay.
I'll be there for like 4 days.
Bet,
Mm-hmm.
bet.
Bet. So what do you think is like the common myth about podcasting that everybody think that's really not true?
Podcasting is just sitting down and getting on the mic and talking, and no, and that's not. It's way more than that. It's having a conversation, and also it's marketing. Also, it's networking as well. And also you got to listen to other people podcasts as well to figure out what they're talking about as well.
Absolutely. I didn't know that it was going to be as hard as it is, but you have to plan your episodes. You have to script some things and you have to schedule them. You got to advertise. You got to talk to people. And this has brought me out of my shell a whole lot because I'm having to really get out there with this podcast more so than when I wrote a book. I'm trying to sell a book. It's different to me.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give other podcasters on their journey starting out, like podcasters like me?
Yeah, I would say keep going. Biggest thing for you is you got it started. That's usually the toughest part. For you, I would tell you to keep going, keep being consistent, keep pushing the podcast, and keep doing everything you're doing. Keep doing it. Now, for people who haven't started yet, don't start something you can't finish. You can't see it through. You know what I'm saying? Because some people they'll give up on certain episodes. Like there's a handful of podcasters who I've had come on Liquor Talk. I've had the pleasure of having on Liquor Talk. Today, I look at their page. They're not even recording episodes no more. So it's disappointing to me as a fellow podcaster to see that you're not podcasting anymore. So my thing is with y'all, do not start something you can't finish, because the people that do have podcasts, they're going to be looking at you as well. They're going to be feeling some type of way like, why did you start? I'm still going, but you done stopped. So
Exactly. I mean, that's anything in life, though. Don't start it and don't finish it. If you have a dream or a vision for it, you got to continue to push. I mean, times are not always going to be good. You're going to have some rough patches, along the way, but still got to be consistent and not give up. I agree. So, how can someone be a guest on your podcast?
just get in touch with me. Like I said, just get in touch with me. Just make the pitch, you know what I'm saying? And like if you have a platform similar to your platform, I do have a guest form, I do have a calendar, so we can go ahead and schedule something out. But just reach out to me, basically. You just reach out to me and we'll set something up.
So, where are your episodes located for the podcast, just in case someone wants to see what you're all about?
The episodes are everywhere. Like you got audio, you got the visual. The visual episode is gonna be on YouTube, obviously, but we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. I think they went away with that, but everywhere you get your podcast platforms, that's where we're at. We're on every mainstream platform.
Okay, so this is a personal question for me. I just wonder, when you are doing your podcast, and I watched one the other night where you were making drinks. Were you ever a bartender?
There was a couple of times I was gonna go to bartending school, but what stopped me was at the time a company called making me a really good pitch. So I'm like, hey, I need to be doing this. But yeah, like I'm gonna get back to my mixology 101 sooner or later.
Yeah, you need to, because you be mixing some drinks. I'm like, I might need to try that. I ain't never tried it that way. I said, I wonder, was he a bartender before? Well, I would like to thank you so much for being a guest on the Breaking the Silence podcast. I'm forever grateful. And I can't wait to be on your podcast on the 22nd. If not, I'll see you in Tampa in March. It was definitely
I can't wait to have you.
It was definitely a pleasure conversing with you. I wish you nothing but success on your journey as a podcaster. As Robert Collier stated, success is the sum of all small efforts repeated day in and day out. So tune in next time and let's break the silence together.
Wasted too much time. Now I'm here and crying. And I don't think he's coming back. Been around the world and
Hey, yo, Sway, you desperate for greatness, bro.